Hello there, and welcome to A Breath of Fresh Air with me, Gina Gardner, and Jill Tiny.
Hi there.
Today we're going to be talking about stress. And is stress something that we generate, that we talk about stress and anxiety and actually make it worse? Is it just life? Is it hugely medicalized? What's the situation, do you think, around stress and anxiety? Because there's such huge swathes of it at the moment.
The world that we live in, Gina, isn't it? It's if you're not stressed by this world, I think the only thing is if the World War III comes to us, and that's about the more stressful thing. We've had the pandemic, we've got the recession, life is tough, we've got huge costs for our heating, business is difficult, we don't have the staff that we used to have. It's tricky, and understandably, you could imagine people going, "Oh God, I'm stressed. I need a prescription from my doctor for one of those magic tablets, and then make it all go away." And I saw an interview with Sheila Hancock earlier today, and she was saying that life is pretty shit. She didn't mince her words on telly, and she said that, and it's true. She said most of the time, life is just awful. And we have to deal with it. Things happen to us and you have to get on with it. And she talked about the stiff upper lip, the bulldog spirit. And obviously, having gone through World War II, she understood that, you can't cry at the drop of a hat. You can't feel sorry for yourself. You have to get on with it because everyone was in the same boat. And on the one hand, I'm like, oh, a bit harsh, Sheila. That's a bit, because I think there is more faster volumes of stress coming at us at a pressure that maybe we didn't have 20, 30 years ago. But at the same time, I do think people are very happy to allow themselves to have a label. Oh, you have depression, you have anxiety, you have stress, and they allow themselves to kind of live up to that. I love every day, there's a lovely lady called Claire Downham who has a stress busting space on LinkedIn. She doesn't call it that, she calls it something much more interesting. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but she talks about our thoughts creating our feelings. And I know exactly where she's coming from, because I know there are times when my head is bursting with stuff and it just makes me want to go, I need a duvet day, I can't cope, I'm not going to do this today. But it's of my own making, this idea of this is stressful, this is too much. It's like an inbox on your emails. There's so many. Oh, I've got 300 emails. Oh, it's stressful. No, it's just you've got 300 emails. You'll get done. So it's how we look at things, I think, as part of the problem.
I absolutely agree that the way we look at things, our focus, our perception creates our reality. But I think we need to recognize that stress is a word that we use to cover everything from, life's a bit difficult. I mean, yesterday I was on my way to an appointment and my sat nav suddenly started to speak in Dutch. Well, I don't speak Dutch. In a place that was all one-way systems, and my sat nav didn't speak one-way systems. And so I was lost and I was late. That creates a level of stress and anxiety, but it's momentary. It's not life-defining. And I think we need to recognize that there's a huge continuum for stress and anxiety. And if you liken it, that continuum, at one level of stress is excitement. It's that frisson that makes many people do their best. It's the adrenaline that gets the best out of you. But at the other end, it is entirely debilitating. So I liken it to, it's either the excitement that gives a good performance, or it's stage fright and you're completely frozen. And there's all stages in between. Ultimately, we need a bit of that adrenaline in our lives. It makes it interesting. There's two problems, I think. One is that when you have stressor on top of stressor on top of stressor, so it becomes overwhelming. And the second thing, I think, is the stories that we make up about what's going on. Now, I don't in any way want to make light of the fact that many people are hugely stressed about the state of the world. I've got a Ukrainian refugee staying with me, And when she looks at what's going on in her country, she is hugely stressed because it's her country, it's her home, she's got people there. And yet, we talk to people who will give themselves the title, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, and that becomes their identity. And so they become unresourced. And one of the things that we both have spoken about many times before is developing resilience. It's not how many times you're knocked down, it's how many times you get up again. It's not what, the bad things that happen to you. It's about how you make that challenge become something which actually can move you forward, help you evolve. We don't evolve, do we, when life is very comfortable? I was talking yesterday to Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yes.
Well, his franchise of books have sold 500 million copies.
Wow.
And yet one of the things that he was talking about is the fact that he was made bankrupt. And at one point, he was so low that he was considering taking his own life.
Whoa.
Now, if he had done that, Chicken Soup for the Soul would never have been written.
Yeah.
He would not have helped the hundreds upon thousands of people that he has helped over the years. But he turned that situation, which seems so desperate, he turned it around. And I think for me, it's when we're in the melee of stress, we don't recognize that actually, if we choose to make it, this is the rocket fuel that can actually help us grow and make a different life. And often I think that my concern is how often it's very quickly medicalized. We'll go and I'll have some antidepressants. And, the research, if you read Lost Connection by Johann Hari, talks about actually it's a wrong premise. It's not a chemical reaction to your brain. It's the way you're thinking about life in general. For the vast majority of people, there's a causation that is about your life and how you respond to it that's not going to be helped by chemicals.
Yes. I mean, there are that small percentage of people that it is a chemical imbalance, and that's fine. But I think we have to acknowledge, I mean, Johann Hari, his book is amazing, and his podcast is as well, but it's just letting people be aware that a prescription is that's not always your problem. You have to identify what your problem is. And I think for a lot of people, the stress is compounded by the lack of control they have over the situation. Going back to your refugee, she has no control over that war, and that's when it's kind of, you feel futile. And I do remember there is a group out there called More to Life, and their philosophy is, ask yourself these 3 questions: is it true, is it false, or don't know? So if there is a situation that you're like, am I making this up? Is this me? Is it something I can worry about, or don't I even know? And so many people, and I was one of them, I put my hand up to this, it's like, you have something, you maybe had a disagreement with somebody, and it's like, I reckon they're thinking that I said that they thought that it might, and it's like, what? Hang on a minute. Yeah. Do I know if they're actually thinking that? No, I don't. So why am I making up this wonderful story that makes them the bad guy and makes me the good guy? I don't know. There's been a disagreement, and the only way we solve it is getting back together and having that conversation and sorting out the misunderstanding. So I think this worry about conflict, we're not very good at dealing with conflict, and also this feeling of when we're not in control. So I do have empathy for those people that are going day in, day out to a job in order to get paid, in order to pay their heating bills, and their boss or someone in their office is a bully, is a narcissist, is somebody out, perhaps in their opinion, to make their life a misery. I think very few people are out to make somebody's life a misery, but there are obviously those cases. And that's when I think, if they're not in control of their life and they feel like they have no choice, genuine stress and anxiety, and it becomes all too much, because it then gets compounded and becomes clinical and becomes, the potential to be medicalized. But before you need to take the little pink pill or whatever it is, you need to talk to someone. And that's when half of the stress and anxiety can be alleviated just in the moment of having someone that's gone, yeah. And that might not even be anyone giving you a solution. That can just be somebody listening.
I think That's so important. There's so much around this topic. We could go on forever, ever. But I think one of the things for me that is so important and I am not in any way making light of the circumstances that people are finding themselves at the moment. Life is for some people incredibly stressful and incredibly hard. But of course, it's all relative. You know, somebody might say, well, it's all right for you. You've only got one broken leg. I've got two.
Yes.
It still hurts. What I would say to people listening to this is, if you are feeling overwhelmed, then you are very much in your left brain thinking, where you won't find a solution. You'll only find catastrophe. If you want to be best resourced within the constraints that you have, you need to breathe. You need to breathe and allow yourself to get into right brain thinking, where that's where solutions are found. You do need to talk to someone, but choose wisely. Not to choose someone who's going, oh, it's all so terrible, isn't it? Oh, and I've got this, and oh, how about that? You need to talk to somebody who's going to be able to help you look at the situation and to find a way through. And even the most desperate situations, there is a way through if you look for it. But when you are in that stressed state, you can't see the wood for the trees.
No.
What I would say to people out there are lots of things to help. You know, the personal empowerment plan, which is on the Genuinely You site, it's got 6 months of a little pep talk, a personal empowerment plan, just a little bit of strategy to use that week.
Lovely.
That will help you make the best of your situation. Does it take away your money worries? No. But will it help you find solutions to your problems because you're in resource mode? Then yes, it will. Belonging to groups like Collaboration Global, where you can come and be yourself and actually talk to people about what the struggles are, and there'll be people there who can help with their solutions. So going to collaborationglobal.com makes sense. But ultimately, it is about the inner work, isn't it?
Yes, because some people don't want to be told what to do, and some people don't need the solutions, and they kind of know what the solutions are, but it's maybe this, as you say, inner resilience, or this kind of Dutch courage that's needed to take on those solutions. And one thing that I found really useful, once I was on a course, and it was like, right, take your problem, the stress that you've got, and talk to the person next to you, a total stranger, don't know the person next to you, but they are not allowed to go, or, oh, really? Well, that's terrible. They're not allowed to say a word. They're not allowed to raise their eyebrows. They're not allowed to smile. They're not allowed to nod. They're just another human being sat there. You could have had a crash dummy in front of you, and you had to talk nonstop for 5 hours about your problem.
5 hours?
Sorry, 5 minutes. Did I say 5 hours? I could probably talk for 5 hours on my problem, but so I had 5 minutes to talk without, pausing for breath, basically. And in the beginning, that felt good to get it off your chest. And then as time went on, I could hear myself being a whinge bag, so, oh God, do I sound like that? And then we were given the last minute to go, and if you were the other person, what do you think they might be saying to you? They're not allowed to say a word, but so you then start problem solving on your own. And you know what the flipping solution is, but because you've had this opportunity to kind of like, get it off my chest, have a good whinge, be that moan bag, and now I've got to think about solution, and okay. And at the end, it was like, oh my goodness, this is so obvious. Why am I not doing it? And it was this massive blinding flash of the obvious. And I'm like, I feel so stupid. Why am I not doing this? And the irony is, for me, I was talking about my health at the time. This is a few years ago. And this guy was sitting there being very pasty-faced and not looking at it. And at the end, I said, and it was his turn then for him to have a problem. And he whinged about his business. And then at the end of it, we both solved our own problems. He was a personal fitness trainer and I was a business coach. And we're like, ugh. It's like the problems are all within us, the solutions are all within us. But it's taking some action and doing something. And I think just having somebody that's detached from who you know. So you can't tell your mum because she's going to go, oh, should you be doing that? You can't tell your bestie because there might be an element of jealousy. You can't tell your husband because he's like, well, what about the kids? So there's all these, they've got their own agenda. they're coming from their own context, their own perspective. You have to do it from where you are and what you want to achieve. So you sometimes need somebody a little bit removed, which is where Collaboration Global, which is .org, by the way, not .com.
I beg your pardon.
That's okay. There's always someone that can kind of give you that, hey, will you listen to me have a whinge for 5 minutes, but don't say a word? Okay, that's fine. The thing is, I think a lot of people are scared about talking to somebody because they think they have to bare their soul and tell them every intimate detail. They don't have to take sides. You don't need to have somebody on your side. You're the one that's on your side, and that's good enough. And that builds your resilience, and that gives you the strength. Someone might need to sit there and tell you how awesome you are and why they think you're amazing, which is great, without any delving into the situation that you're stressed about. And that can boost you and go like, oh, I am actually, aren't I? I think I'm going to do this. And it's just giving you that extra strength, because in your head, you've been saying the total opposite. You've been going round and round in circles going, oh, I'm unworthy. Why did they say that to me? Maybe it's because they don't like me. Maybe it's because of this. And we make up all these incredible, stupid stories about ourselves. So it's our thinking is damaging the way we are. So if we take the thinking away, have a clean slate, and then just talk it out, I think that's, that should be on the NHS prescription, really, before you
Everything starts and ends with mindset. Your mindset, the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your life. And I think for me, one of the challenges for people who are feeling anxious and stressed, and I coach so many people who come because they are at the end of their tether. As you say, talking to somebody who's not emotionally involved is really important. But one of the things that strikes me is people are so good about defining what's gone wrong and what they don't want. And when you say, well, okay, what would be the ideal solution? They don't know.
Yeah.
And we both know that what you focus on appears to expand. And so the danger is that the focus is so much on all of the rubbish that's happening. There is no focus on where you want to go to. And energetically, that makes a difference. But also in terms of your own inner resources, when you're focusing on where you want to go and making your present moment as good as it could be, then the quality of your life changes, and your capacity to manage those difficult situations just increases logarithmically. So if you're listening to this, I'm really grateful that you have. What I would say to you is, what's your mindset like? Where's your focus? Are you focusing on all of the things that are going wrong and the difficulties around the world? Or are you focusing on allowing yourself to be as well-resourced as it's possible for you to be, and to focus on what you do want? Do reach out for help. Yes. You'll find Jill at collaborationglobal.org. You'll find me at genuinely-you.com. And there's lots of resources there to help. So please do reach out. And if you want a safe listening ear, somebody who's going to be non-judgmental, I need to get my teeth in, non-judgmental, then please do contact us, and we'll put the links in the notes. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye now.
Take care.